Hello, friends. Pastor Amy here once again from Southgate United Methodist Church here on this beautiful a beautiful Wednesday here in October 28th of 2020. Uh, we are only a few days away from one of the spookiest days of the year. That's right, Election Day is coming up. See what I did there? Anyway, yes, no, I'm joking, of course. Election Day doesn't have to be spooky. It doesn't have to be scary. It is an important day where we exercise our rights as citizens of the United States. And I know there's a lot of tension around Election Day, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you about the importance of exercising your rights or encouraging you to vote because no doubt you've had a lot of that already. And I hope you do exercise that right, and I hope you have a plan for how to vote safely in this COVID world that we are in. Um, what I have to say about the election coming up has more to do with our attitudes towards the candidates and our attitudes towards each other as we are going into this election and as we are coming out of it and as we are processing the results of it. And I want to share with you a quote from the founder of Methodism that gets circulated a lot in Methodist circles. That maybe some of you have already heard, but I think it's worth bringing back again and again because it's simple, straightforward advice from someone that I consider to be very wise. John Wesley wrote in his journal, the date was October 6th, 1774. 1774. This would have been before the Declaration of Independence in the colonies, as it would have been back then. They had elections in England back in the day. They had a parliament. Of course, not everybody was able to vote, but we won't go into all of that. Uh, there was an election going on at that time, and he wrote in his journal this. He said, I met those of our society who had votes in the ensuing election and advised them: 1, to vote without fee or reward for the person they judged most worthy; 2, to speak no evil of the person they voted against; and 3, to take care that their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. So to recap, he has three words of advice. 1, to vote without fee or reward for the person they judge most worthy. So don't take bribes for voting, which I think most of us, we don't get paid to vote. It's just most important to use your best judgment and vote for the person you think will do the best job. I think that's the easy part. We do our best, I think, to research and decide who will be the best candidate. The next two, I think, are the harder parts and the parts that we as a culture, as a society, struggle with most. And that is the second one, to speak no evil of the person they voted against. There is a lot of nastiness that is going on in both directions. In all directions about the various candidates. And I myself can be guilty of this sometimes too, of speaking about the candidates that I am voting against in ways that are uh, less than civil. And there's a difference between saying, I don't like this policy that this candidate stands for, and calling names and spreading rumors and falsehoods and conspiracies and things like that. So being mindful of how we speak about candidates and things like that. And then and number 3, to take care their spirits were not sharpened against those that voted on the other side. And that means our neighbors, friends. We're not all going to agree on who will be the best candidates for the various jobs that we're voting for, not just president, but for our state legislature, and for Congress, and for all the positions that are open in this election. We drive through our neighborhoods and we see yard signs that declare the various political opinions of all of our neighbors. Um, does that change your opinion of your neighbor when you see what signs they're displaying? It shouldn't. We should still be able to love our neighbors and to care for them and um, to respect that we have different political opinions, but we still live in the same neighborhoods. We still live in the same communities. We're still raising our families and living our lives. And it's important to try and set those aside as we're working together to make our community a better place to live in. It's okay to have disagreements, but let's still find ways to come together. And so I invite you um, to try a spiritual practice, and that's this. Every time you see, as you are driving around, there is no shortage of political yard signs and political ads. Anytime you see one for a candidate that you disagree with, say a prayer for that candidate and say a prayer for the person that is displaying that, the neighbor that is displaying that. Not a prayer that says, oh, please change their mind, but a prayer for their well being, a prayer for their goodness, and a prayer that you can see the face of God in them. And that's a hard thing. And I realize that as I am calling you to that action, I'm also calling myself to that action. But I think that we need to prepare our hearts to be spiritually loving and giving and open as we're going into this election day. It should be a day of celebration of the fact that we have a choice in who our leaders are. But there is a great deal of tension, and we need to all take a deep breath and remember that regardless of who wins each of these races, as far as who wins these political races, we are still all living in the same country, living in the same communities, and we still need to work together um, in building up our communities. And we are all need to work together. So I invite you into that spiritual practice of praying for one another. All right, so coming up this week in the life of our church, uh, today you'll be getting our weekly email, and there's going to be a survey in there asking for your opinion about an idea for an activity our Outreach and Hospitality Committee has. They have an idea for an activity. We want to know if you're interested in it and your availability for participating in that. Just a couple quick questions. Let us know. So participate in that. This Sunday, it is the last week of our Stranger Faith sermon series, and we'll be talking about the strangest thing, and that is people. God created the entire universe, stars and planets, and oceans and forests and owls and giraffes and ducks and the little roly poly things. God created all of those and looked around and thought, we need one more thing, and that is humans. So, how do we fit into all of this, and uh, what makes us so different? And why does God continually act time and time again in human history to make us better and to bring us in closer relationship with God? So we'll be exploring some of those questions this week, and so that's this Sunday, live streaming at 8:30. In-person worship at 8:30 and 11, and you can join our live stream or listen to a recording through Sermon by Phone. Um, Remember that God loves you, so do I, and I'll see you Sunday.